Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests. Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
you get up, you dress up, and you fucking show up.
Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast, and it's a rare privilege for me to interview Spencer Fearon. I mean, I hardly ever get to interview you, so I'm delighted and over the moon, Spencer. We did have a good chat before we pushed record here. So yeah, how's things? How's life, mate?
I'm all right, I'm all right, pushing forward. I just got a bit of sciatica, so I'm like, I have to lay kind of funny to try and stretch the muscle. So, but apart from that, I'm all right, man. I'm even better for speaking to you. We ain't spoken in a hot minute, man. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I think the last time was probably one of them small hall shows up in Bolton, man. It was, or wherever it may be. It was, and you're talking maybe 2-3 years ago.
Yep. It was about 2 years ago. The days I was covering the shows on ESPN Plus, the good MTK Global show. So yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Happiness is not a destination; it's a way of life, man. That's the truth right there.
Come on, unite goes Andrew, man.
Right, Spence, obviously the reason why I wanted to get you on this call, man, is there's I don't know if you've heard, but there's a massive fight happening on Saturday night out in Las Vegas with Errol Spence Jr.
Bro,
you haven't heard?
Fights there.
Well, let me tell you, there's a fighter called Errol Spence Jr. and there's another one called Terence Crawford.
Okay.
They're both undefeated. They're both champions. They're both in the pound for pound list. They're both in the top two in their division. It's a fight we've been wanting to see for the best part of maybe 4-5 years, maybe. And it's happening Saturday night, Spencer. Before we get into the details, the finer details of the fight, mate, how excited are you for Saturday night to witness this fight?
I'm really excited for this fight, and I mean really excited for the fight, simply because it will start to push for other guys to want to fight each other. We've seen it a really, really good year this year. Simple fact, we saw Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. We saw that fight where Lozos was talking like, wow, we ain't gonna go see this. We ain't gonna see that fight happen. We've seen that this fight's taking place right now. So we're seeing the fights that we are dreaming of happen. The only one that we're really trying to wait to say what's going on is Tyson Fury versus Usyk. That's another story for another day. But it's good to see guys who are still in their peak. They're still in their peak. Willing to get it on, and I'm grateful to know that fight's taking place.
Definitely. Like I say, you mentioned the Tank Garcia fight, but it seems like this year's been a good year for boxing for us. I mean, we can talk about Liam Smith, Chris Eubanks starting off the year, which was a great fight. Yard Bertabiev was a great fight as well in itself. With Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, Spence Crawford coming up. It seems like these lighter weights are showing the heavyweights how to get it done.
Well, they are, simply because I think right now they're concerned about generating money, but also generating legacy. And seeing that now, certain people are secure within themselves and they feel like maybe they won't need that. But when in years gone by, certain things will haunt them if these things do not happen, because. And that's not even me picking at Tyson Fury, because I'm actually a Tyson Fury fan. But I would say for Tyson Fury, similarly to when Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe didn't happen, right? And it was proposed from 92, it was proposed that fight could happen 93, 94, 95, and it didn't happen. Those two were the two heavyweights in the world, and they didn't clash each other. But the mere fact that Lennox Lewis stopped Riddick Bowe in the 88 Olympics in Seoul, the general consensus was like Lennox Lewis would have beaten Riddick Bowe as time goes by. But at the time when that fight was muted, especially the Riddick Bowe that beat Evander Holyfield in their first fight in December of 92, people were not giving Lennox Lewis that chance to beat Riddick Bowe, because Riddick Bowe actually had more to his game than what Lennox Lewis had. But time will tell, because as time's gone on now, we're saying, Lennox would have done him, because Lennox Lewis is like top to be greatest heavyweights of all time, right? Arguably number one. So I would say when it comes with Tyson Fury, I think he should not want to deny his legacy, because your legacy can't be built off of the 3 wins over Deontay Wilder or the win over Klitschko, right? Because that's just 2 men. Legacy is built over a duration of time of beating good caliber men. Like what Lennox Lewis did, he stayed in the realms and beat good caliber men. Even when he lost, he came back and he beat the guys that beat him in Oliver McCall, in Hasim Rahman. So I think Tyson Fury should be thinking about that legacy, right? Have this fight with Ngannou, no problem. Earn your paper from that fight, no problem. But please, just give us the fight with Usyk. Simple as that.
Yeah. I think that's the one we all want to see. For me personally, I want to see Tyson Fury. There's only 2 fights I want to see him in, and that's Joshua and Usyk, and I'll be happy with that. They're the 2 sort of fights that as a boxing fan, I want to see Tyson Fury in with. But just keeping it on this fight this Saturday night in Las Vegas, man. Spence Crawford. I've been reading a lot of what fighters are saying, and I read one this morning with Dimitri Bivol. He put on a tweet saying that Terence Crawford is the slight favourite in this one, and I get the general consensus that a lot of people, fighters, analysts, they're sort of leaning towards Crawford as well. How are you leaning in this fight?
You know what? When the fight was first muted, Andrew, I was heavily Terence Crawford. And I mean heavily Terence Crawford. Simply because I believe that Terence Crawford does more than what Errol Spence does. But there is something about Errol Spence which is very similar to Marvin Hagler. He methodically breaks you down, right? He hits hard, but he's not like a concussive, boom, one-punch knockout eyes. Marvin Hagler was a concussive one-punch knockout eyes, but if he clipped you, right, it'd knock you out. But Marvin Hagler had very underrated boxing skills. And what I'm noticing this is like, Errol Spence has very underrated boxing skills. Errol Spence is a very, very good tactician, especially like what he'll do, he'll pop his right-hand jab, and he'll pop his right-hand jab just to close the distance. So when he's up close, and then he throw a hard 1-2, like a right hook, left hook down to the gut, and then he goes back on his jab, and then he waits so he can detonate that left uppercut from, unless he's backhand power shot, because he's a southpaw. So Errol Spence is he's fantastic. Errol Spence is fantastic, right? And a fight that he doesn't get credit for is his win over Mikey Garcia. Because I don't care that Mikey Garcia was a smaller man. Mikey Garcia is fantastic, mate. A multiple weight world champion. And even in a fight, like the size difference was very telling, but it was just how he bossed him. And I'm not like, got a very, very good IQ. But here lies the difference with Bud Crawford. And like people, I see why people are leaning to Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford, he's predominantly a southpaw, but he's a switch hitter, right? So when I'm saying like Errol Spence is Marvin Hagler-esque, Bud Crawford has similarities on Marvin Hagler simply because he switches, but he does it effortlessly. It's not like he's forcing it when he goes into an orthodox position. He's very comfortable either way. But Errol Spence is a guy, when he fights you, he downloads data. Because they all do. When they're sitting down, he downloads data. He assesses what's happening, and he says, right, I'm going to make the adjustments, and I'm going to keep on plowing forward. But he plows forward by he's making little adjustments. Sometimes he makes little adjustments where he'll step over a little bit, lean over to his right, so he can detonate that right hook. Then he come with a straight left hand down the middle. But it seems like all the shots with Errol Spence, they're not hard shots, but they are hard shots. You can see it, especially like I like how he turns his body when he throws his hooks downstairs. They're hurtful shots. But then also when you look on Bud Crawford is a guy like, dare you tell him that he's behind on points, dare you hit him with a hard shot, and he's like, I'm not going to wait a couple rounds to get you, I'm going to get you straight away. He's that guy. He's like, okay, what, you really think it's going to go like this? And then he switches it up immediately. We saw it in the Gamboa fight. We saw it when he was warned that he was behind on points when he was fighting Sean Porter. who Sean Porter doesn't get the credit that he deserves, because Sean Porter is a brilliant bloody fighter, mate. Right? A brilliant fighter. Sean Porter is throwback. Sean Porter slots clean in the welterweight divisions of the 50s. Clean, he's in there. Sean Porter's excellent. Excellent fighter.
Can I ask you then, Spencer? Sorry to cut you.
When you look at that,
I was gonna ask you that. Can we read too much? And obviously they share a common opponent in Sean Porter, and obviously we've seen how.
And Kell Brook. And Kell Brook as well. Kell Brook's a common opponent as well.
Exactly. And we've seen how Terence Crawford dealt with them, and we've seen how Errol Spence. Can we read too much in it? Can we use that as a yardstick going into this fight?
No, because Sean Porter retired after that fight, right? So I think Sean Porter was more fresher when he fought Errol Spence. You know, he was a world champion guy in the fight. You know, slightly different. And he had Errol going, and he hurt Errol a couple times in that fight. But that's Sean Porter's methodical way of coming forward. He plows forward. So we could kind of see it different. But Sean Porter fought a totally different fight when he fought Bud Crawford, because he was trying to muscle him out of the fight, and he started heavy. He started very, very fast, right? So I don't think we can read too much into it, because Errol Spence beat the fresher Sean Porter, but Bud Crawford beat the more experienced Sean Porter. So it's how you want to take it.
And that's interesting as well. I'm glad you mentioned this. The sort of keys to victory as well. It's that old saying in boxing that a good big guy always beats a good little guy. Now, we know Errol Spence is going to come into the ring a lot heavier than Bud Crawford. I mean, I read somebody comes in at almost close to 170, 172, Errol Spence, when he comes into the ring. So that's near on like heavyweight. Is this a case for Spence Crawford going into this fight? Is it a case to use his size and try and, like you say, the third and shots, break him down a little bit, lean on him, and try and be that bigger man in there and wear Terence Crawford down?
Yeah, you know what? I've seen Terence Crawford hurt. I saw Terence Crawford hurt in the Kavaliauskas fight, and then he's like, right, oh, you think you can hurt me, yeah? Watch. And this is what I'm trying to say about that. Terence Crawford has real spite in him, and his spite isn't, you know, like when people say like, "Our revenge is a dish best served cold." Not with this brother. This guy, I'm getting you back right now to let you know that I'm the boss here, and this is why he's a very, very, he's very exciting in that. But I don't know whether it's like when we're looking like a good big one will be a good little one, because Lloyd Hannigan, former undisputed world welterweight champion, right? Always used to say he was the third man, because how it goes is this. Sorry to bore you with histrionics.
No.
2005, 18 years ago, was Zab Judah when he beat Corey Spinks, and that was for the Undisputed World Championships at welterweight. We haven't had an Undisputed World Champion since. This is going to be the first time that we are going to have an Undisputed Champion. The first time since then we're going to have an Undisputed Champion. It's going to be the first time that we're going to have in the 4-belt weight era of having Undisputed Champion. So this is fascinating. But the fascinating thing about the Corey Spinks versus Zab Judah fight is that there were two southpaws fighting. And come Saturday night, we've got two southpaws fighting again. We'd like to see this fight end in a knockout. Right? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it could end in a knockout. And I've always said from the beginning, when this fight was first moving, I'm talking like 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years, 5 years ago. That was first really being talked about. I always felt that Bud Crawford could do more than what Errol Spence could do. Right? I always kind of favored Bud Crawford to come out victorious in this fight because he can do more. But there's something about Errol Spence that is sublime toughness and doesn't get the ratings for the boxing skills that he has or the IQ. He doesn't. And I see the longer this fight goes on, the harder it will be for Bud Crawford.
Why?
But then, and the reason why is because size of Errol Spence. Like when people say it's not when you're, it's not whether it's not whether you're big enough, it's whether you're good enough. I think the size of Errol Spence, like you mentioned, like he's gonna enter into that ring near a light heavyweight, right? I think if he could be able to not exactly bully Terence, but to stamp his authority early, like hit him with hard shots early, let him know, like, right, you're in with a real welterweight here who's in his prime, who wants to give it to you. It's a really hard fight to call, man. And that's what makes it. No, it is. It's a really hard fight to call. But like I said, originally when this fight was first mooted, I was heavily favoring Bud Crawford. Now that the fight is here, literally here, I want to say Errol Spence. It's a. You know what? I'm just gonna be. I'll tell you why it's so hard, because I'm not too sure whether Bud could take it from Errol. You know, I'm not too sure.
Well, you mentioned the knockout there, Spence, and obviously I think Errol Spence has had 28 fights and only 6 of them have gone the distance. And Bud Crawford, I think he's on a 10-fight knockout. I think he's knocked everyone out at welterweight so far he's fought with. Every single person at 147 he's fought, he's knocked out. So
who's he fought at 140? This is no disrespect.
No.
My friend, who's he fought? Look on, let's be real. Who's he fought?
Kell Brook, Sean Porter, Avanesian, most recently. Gosh, Amir Khan, was it? Was he up at 147?
That's no disrespect to any of those fighters, right? Sean Porter was at the end of his career. Reason why? Because Sean Porter retired after that fight. So I'm like saying, it's the one who the thing is this, the one who downloads information the best in this fight, right, is actually, they're both good at downloading information, but Errol Spence downloads information very well because he will stick to his game plan, he will continue methodically moving on. Terence Crawford is very good at downloading information, but he downloads the information and he can administer it there and then. Like, it's like you're on, Terence Crawford is on 5G, Errol Spence is on 4G. So he downloads it way faster. His Wi-Fi system's a bit quicker and he administers his shots. And the thing with Terence is like, he likes throwing hooks, right? And when you're dealing with a southpaw, loads of people are talking like, it's a straight right hand if you're an orthodox fighter. It's a straight right hand. But no, if you're a fellow southpaw, right? It's also a left hook coming from a southpaw position that is dangerous. And I've seen Bud Crawford hurt guys with that, you know? And I mean, really hurt guys. So when it comes to something like this, the one who does more is Bud Crawford. So maybe I'm going to go with Bud on this one. But if you phone me tomorrow, I'm going to change my mind and say Errol Spence. It's hard. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's a hard one to call.
The thing is with Spence as well, he's been out of the ring it'll be over a year since he's fought Bud. It'll be what, 14, 15 months, 16 months?
Yeah, a long while.
Yeah, it's been out a long while. So obviously the fresher fighter is Bud. Again, it's one of them ones. Do you believe in ring rust?
Not when you're at this top level of athlete, then no, because Floyd Mayweather has shown us that this ring rust thing doesn't really exist, right? If you are continually training and continually applying your trade, and with someone like Errol Spence, he continually is applying his trade. He's been very, very dedicated for this fight. It's like I said, it's a very, very hard. That's why this fight is so big. And you know what the nicest thing is? This is like we're seeing two gentlemen who are going into the fight who are not who are not selling this fight on being gregarious, being obnoxious, talking crap, all the rest of it. And it's a fight where we're realizing that boxing has really stepped itself up in 2023. And it's a privilege to know like these two men, and we're going to get to see it. And it is going to be in the kind of same line as Leonard Hearns, was that 681? It's one of those ones. It's that big. And I'm so grateful that a fight of this magnitude is happening, because we're going to get to watch it and we're going to get to talk about it, you know?
And listen, Spencer, I'll be messaging you Sunday morning to get your reaction to it.
No, bro, I'm on it. Definitely. I'm here to give my opinion. I'm so looking forward to speak to you about it. And like I said, it's a fantastic fight. And I'm you know what, I don't know exactly who's going to win, because what I realize is this: there's loads of guys who I know. I'm of Jamaican descent. Errol Spence Jamaican descent. As soon as people heard that Errol Spence was Jamaican, Errol Spence is going to win, right? I'm talking like guys in my community. Errol Spence.
I do that with Scottish fighters.
Exactly. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I'm not taking it. My bias is like, I enjoy boxing skills, and they're both excellent bloody fighters. Both of them are excellent fighters. But the one for me who's a little bit more skilled, who demonstrates that more skill, then I would say it is Bud Crawford. But you know what? I'll be happy to be proven wrong. Either way, I don't business. It's going to be an excellent fight. It's going to be a fantastic fight. I'm so looking forward to it, man.
Me too, Spencer. I do want to. We've got 5 minutes left on the Zoom call, so I want to get your quick thoughts on this now. Inoue fought on Tuesday there and dismantled Stevie Fulton, right? And now the pound for pound list, whether you like the pound for pound list or not, it's a discussion. It's a subjective opinion on that everyone has. Now, for me, I said personally, if Spence Crawford, no matter what the outcome is, whoever the winner is, Inoue is still pound for pound number one. And the reason I said that is because the way Inoue is collecting these belts, and the way he's dismantling unified champions, he's making it look easy. He's apart from Donaire really in the first fight. So do you agree with that? Do you think that Inoue's pound for pound number one, no matter the result of Spence Crawford, or do you think the winner of Spence Crawford is pound for pound number one?
I think it's a really difficult one, because it's very difficult to argue with and Inoue, he's literally the monster. He's horrible, man. That guy, and I like his style of I like how he's another guy who can take in information and then administer and work on your thoughts and into shots. He's a very good fighter, and he's got ridiculous punching power. So I'm a massive fan of Inoue, right? A massive fan of Inoue, and a 4-weight world champion. But there is no one on Inoue's resume, that matches the caliber. Inoue hasn't beaten nobody else that's been in the pound for pound rankings, right? And then also that we got to look at the resume, where you do as a collective the resume of what Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are bringing together. I would say whoever wins that fight on the weekend should be number one pound for pound, because collectively you put all their resumes together and all the names, the top names that both men have beaten, you've conquered those guys. But I wouldn't argue if anyone said, well, for me, Inoue's my pound for pound number one, right? Because Inoue's he's bad. He's just, and I hear this talk like he could be fighting Tank Davis. There's talk like that fight could happen, right?
Ooh.
Right. Yeah. But I just think that fight's a little bit far away. But Inoue's tall for the weight. So I can see him going through, and I can see Inoue ending up, like, I can see him doing super feather. I really can. Right, so you never know. I think that fight could happen. That'd be a badass fight, mate.
Definitely. I know that. If Inoue does end up fighting Tank Davis, I'll be giving you a call to get a chat and let's talk about it. But Spence, listen, I do appreciate your time speaking to me. I do appreciate it. Listen, if you don't mind, well, I'll give you a message Sunday and we can get a reaction to the fight.
Bro, 1,000,000%. I'm there. We're doing the fight along. Myself and Babatunde Ajayi, we're doing the watch along on our channel on The Fight Is Right. So tune in for that. I mean, Babatunde Ajayi is the fastest talker when it comes to download information and getting everybody hyped. So tune into that. We're doing that, and then it'll be a pleasure. Just after the fight, phone me. Also, can I send my condolences to the founder of the Pentecostal Credit Union, Mr. Carmel Jones, who passed away last week. A beautiful human being. My condolences to all of their family, to all of the Bowles family. You know, really, really, really good man. All of the Jones family, my condolences to you. And we have a thing called a 9-night celebration. I think that's happening on Sunday, which I'll be present. But yeah, that's what I want to say that on there. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, Andrew, because you're one of the real ones, man. You've always been my mate for a hot minute now. So it's been a pleasure talking boxing, because I know you love the game. All right, bro.
Love it, brother. Listen, Spence, enjoy the rest of your day, brother. I'll speak to you Sunday.
All right, mate.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks, mate.
Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests, Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
You get up, you dress up, and you fucking shut up.